Good morning and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We have been hearing of poverty, and the Ukraine war has pinpointed another kind of poverty, the energy poverty. And the energy poverty is a stark reality for almost the whole population of India equal to that. That's 1.3 billion people globally suffer from energy poverty. But then human beings are a strange animal. They forget the past and they want to invent the wheel again. And this is primarily because our education is so lopsided. There is no connectivity in the different disciplines. If there was connectivity, then the climatologist could go into the philosophical treatises and find the way, but it rarely happens. In fact, the old treatises were not the rambling antics of people who were uneducated. They were highly capable, great thinkers, and they came up with the concepts that provide solutions and practices to many issues. And climate issue is one of them that we face today. The age-old Indic climate ethics, if applied suitably, can mitigate this problem. But would they? In particular, I'm referring to this Hindu-based philosophy to unpack the energy policy. Basically, we have a dichotomy and it faces the policy makers. It's a conflict between achieving sustainable development on one side and also rapidly decarbonizing by transitioning away from a strong industrialization-driven model of economic development. Now, these opposing models, as they created dichotomy, are in fact not opposing, they complement each other. Drawing from the Gita-inspired notions of focus on duty is here and now. It is opposed to the sensitivity towards future consequences of the present action. All these climatic conditions, if they are man-made, are the result of our insensitivity. Desertification, deforestation, urbanization, all that. And as a matter of fact, if you study Nyaya, the Sanskrit term for justice, and Nyaya is a treatise which can be the base of the ethical behavior of human beings. And Nyaya's focus on the realized justice is more comprehensive and it is inclusive, that it will allow all the policy makers, provided they are capable, to move beyond niti. Niti is, again, diplomatic policy, bureaucratic setup. You see, that limits the human behavior, but Nyaya doesn't. The policy to follow the trappings of bounded institutions, rules and regulations have to be given a pass by. Now, what are the Indic traditions? You must be asking me. Well, Gita doesn't talk of that. No. The Indic traditions are so deeply ingrained but rarely practiced. They consider nature as a powerful and divine. So we have converted that into rituals. We revere the rivers and make them dirty. We revere the mountains, worship them, and then we spoil them. We worship trees, animals, and earth. And we are the worst enemies of animals, trees, biodiversity, and as well as bio ecosystem. If you remember a few years back, the famous Chipko movement led by women is a widely known example of Indian environmental leadership in recent times. Now, what was Chipko? Chipko was tree hugging. They say we worship the trees. Trees sustain us, these women. They were in Uttarakhand, they started. And as a matter of fact, this was an implementation on the environment practice being followed by generations. And if such practices in all aspects are followed, then they can shape the energy ethics for the planet even today. And that is how the energy hunger can be satiated. It's nothing something which cannot be done. Now, diverse Indic notions of energy conservation suggest these. First is the 5 elements of the atmosphere: space, air, yes, I was referring to 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. Now there is connectivity in all 3 of them. And this connectivity shows us the way, because this provides us with renewable energy sources. You can have energy from the space, you can have it from the air, you can have it from the fire, you can have it from the water, hydro, and earth, if you know it, geothermal. So those elements which are interconnected are immense sources of renewable energy sources, and they can continue to support the web of life on the earth. Hence we must practice our way of life in harmony with the earth to protect and conserve energy sources rather than destroy or misuse them. Each local and national community can advocate for an end to exploitation of the earth through polluting, extractive processes. As a matter of this mining and extractive, they are the worst problem. Second, so interconnectivity of 5 elements, using them, but not for extractive process. Second is simple living. It's a powerful enabler for developing sustainable economies. And energy must be consumed sustainably and responsibly by and for humankind. Now imagine simple living. Today, the architects say, well, the house is made of mud, don't need air conditioning. And India had those mud and straw houses centuries back. Not that they could not afford to build. And they built beautiful temples, they could build homes. But they knew that the energy wasted in keeping those houses cool or warm would be a problem. And this in nature is providing earth, is providing you with the resources to make it useful. So, as a matter of fact, our treatment of nature and usage of energy directly affects us, and we are at fault. We can choose to protect energy sources in future, replacing destructive karmic patterns with the good ones. We exploit, and that's a bad karma. It will have a negative effect. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, I'm not talking to Sonia Gandhi, it's an inspirational model for the simple living. His entire life, at least adult entire life, can be seen as an ecology treatise. His every minute action, emotion, and thought were aligned with the Indic values of truth, non-violence, and simplicity. Because, you see, there's a proverb, a penny saved is a penny gained. So if you don't misuse energy, then you are not hungry. I've seen people not conserving energy but letting it go off with a blatant misuse. Sure, that has to be avoided. Then, there's another thing which people believe or not believe. Believe in the cycle of rebirth. Now, you would be thinking, how is that going to satisfy or assuage the energy hunger? Now, belief in the cycle of rebirth, wherein every human being travels through millions of cycles of birth and rebirth, depending on their karmic actions of the previous area, makes people respect every form of life. Now, in India there's a custom, there's a people feed the crows, considering that the souls of their ancestors are those crows. So, respect for biodiversity. Who knows which animal might be your ancestor? Jains, for example, put a mask so that they do not inhale any germ, not germs, but basically minute species of particles. They would not tread on a worm. So every form of life on the planet is respected, and that results in a great thing, that is, you are, by conserving biodiversity, enabling the nature to provide you with the necessary energy. I told you about the worshipping, but even the snakes are worshipped, and even the rat. There's a temple in Rajasthan where I'm not saying one should do it, but then the respect has to be given to animals. A person may be reincarnated as a human being, as an animal, a bird, or any other species, because it's a broader community of life and traverses through many lives before achieving liberation. No, reincarnation concept, leave aside the other aspects, creates a sense of solidarity between the human beings and all living beings. And that satisfies the energy hunger. For example, you need energy for going and for mining. But then you know it, that while you are mining, in the process you might be destroying the habitats of, say, rodents. So it should not be done, or the foxholes, or anything. Thirdly, fourthly, several rural communities in India, like Bishnois, Bhils, Swadhyas, they are maintaining even today practices, and very strong practices, to preserve their ecosystems. Now, energy hunger is because of the destruction of the ecosystem. If your ecosystem is okay, then the energy need would be less. You remember people saying that the climate change has taken place. Yes, it has. So what happens? You protect your water bodies, so their temperature would cool down. The water bodies would enable you to have a cooler. Flora and fauna is a part of daily life. So when Bishnois were protecting animals and the trees, when Swadhyas are building tree temples, Vrishya Karmadharis, and Nirmal Nees, water harvesting sites, and Bhils are practicing their rituals in the sacred rooms, they are essentially because they are attached to the Indic philosophy. And they are expressing their reverence for nature according to the Indic teaching. They are not just bothering about restoring the environment, but they say that the Indic teaching tells them to revere, respect, and pay due regard to the nature. So for these communities, there is a difference in perception. They do not view religion, ecology, and ethics as separate. So there is an integral part of human being: ethics, religion, and ecology. So you have to treat them. And the most important environmental message Indic traditions can share with the grateful and protect being grateful, and protected toward the energy sources. We use energy sources, so we should feel gratitude. And the one form of gratitude is the proper usage. If you look at the ancient beliefs and the traditions, they are a strong indicator of Indic climate ethics. And those are very close indicators of regard for the well-being of the people and all forms of life, including trees and grass, biodiversity and ecosystem. And if the world embraces these practices, then the energy hunger, which afflicts about 1/7 of the population, can be easily resolved. We have to move our perceptions from exploitative to appreciative. And if we do that, our problem would be solved. But man by nature is greedy. And the present greed makes him unmindful of the consequences in future. And therein lies the tragedy. But if the Indic philosophy, again, coming back to Bhagavad Gita, you remember that Krishna asked Arjuna and Karan not to use Brahmastra because that will destroy the whole system. That was a thermonuclear weapon, as per the historical and mythological stories go. And they were asked not to do it. And in Sikh religion, as I'll discuss tomorrow, the reverence for the nature is something which is inbuilt. As a matter of fact, many times I say that the most organized religion is pantheism represented in Sikhism, old Inca civilization. So the old concepts, whether they were Indian, which they are, with which we are more conversant, or Mexican, or Mesopotamian, they had an integrative approach and not exploitative approach. And therein lies the solution to the problems of today, provided we don't close our eyes to those facts. Thank you.